We are now 16 consecutive days below freezing across the region, the longest stretch we've seen in over a decade. And folks, if you're in the Picton or Sandbanks Park area, Environment Canada has issued a snow squall watch. We're talking 10 to 15 centimeters of snow, with visibility dropping to near zero at times throughout today. Here's something remarkable. Ottawa's all-time record is 61 consecutive days below freezing back in 1944 to 45. We're nowhere near that yet, but this current streak is still incredibly persistent and stubborn. So, let's get right into it and break down what's happening across southern Ontario today. Right now at 204 this morning, Hamilton Airport recorded light snow with temperatures sitting at 6 degrees C. The wind chill there is making it feel like -12, and visibility has dropped to just 6 kilometers. Over in Ottawa, we saw overnight lows plummet to 19 degrees with wind chills hitting 26. Toronto's dealing with overnight lows around 9, but the wind chill is pushing that down to 16. And Windsor, you guys saw the coldest conditions with -18 overnight, and wind chills approaching -25. Now, the big story today is this cross-polar flow that's been locked in place for over 2 weeks now. We've got ridging up in Alaska working together with a blocking high-pressure system parked right over Greenland. These two features are essentially directing Arctic air straight down into eastern Canada, and it's been relentless. The storm track has been displayed so far south that the core of this Arctic air has reached the Gulf of Mexico. On top of that, we've got expanding ice cover on the Great Lakes and a building snowpack across the region. Both of those factors are working to amplify and extend winter's grip across southern Ontario. All right, let's talk about the active weather alert that's in effect right now for the Picton and Sandbanks Park area. Environment Canada issued this yellow watch snow squall warning at 11:16 last night, and it remains in effect. The impact level is moderate, but the forecast confidence is high, so we're pretty certain this is going to happen. Snow squalls are expected to develop this morning and continue into early evening across that eastern Ontario region. Local snowfall amounts of 10 to 15 centimeters are expected, with reduced visibility in snow and blowing snow. Now, if you're not familiar with that area, Picton and Sandbanks are located about 200 kilometers east of Toronto. They're right on the shore of Lake Ontario, which makes them particularly vulnerable to lake-effect snow events like this. When cold Arctic air moves over the relatively warmer lake water, it picks up moisture and dumps heavy snow. The warning specifically mentions that visibility may be suddenly reduced to near zero at times throughout the day. Roads and walkways are going to be extremely difficult to navigate due to the accumulating snow and blowing conditions. If you absolutely must travel through that region today, prepare for quickly changing and deteriorating travel conditions. Keep an emergency kit in your vehicle with blankets, water, snacks, and a fully charged phone. Now, let's shift our focus to the rest of southern Ontario and what you can expect for the remainder of Tuesday. Starting in Toronto, we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud with a 40% chance of flurries throughout the day. The high temperature will struggle to reach 3 degrees C with westerly winds at 20 kilometers per hour. The wind chill is going to make it feel like -16, so bundle up if you're heading outside. Tonight in Toronto, we stay cloudy with that 40% chance of flurries continuing, and the low drops to -13. The overnight wind chill is going to plummet to -22, which is dangerous territory. Moving east to Ottawa, you guys are looking at cloudy skies with a 60% chance of snow developing this morning. Your daytime high will reach -5 with light winds up to 15 kilometers. Tonight in Ottawa, that 60% chance of snow continues with temperatures dropping to -10 degrees C overnight. Down in Hamilton, we've already got light snow falling this morning, and that's going to continue through much of the day. Flurries are expected with westerly winds picking up to 20 kilometers and a high of -5. The wind chill in Hamilton will make it feel like -16 during the day, dropping to -22 tonight. By this evening, Hamilton sees partly cloudy skies with a 40% chance of flurries and a low of -16. Over in Windsor, you're getting a bit of a break from the active weather with a mix of sun and cloud today. Your high temperature reaches 5 degrees, but tonight it's going to be clear and cold. Windsor drops down to -15 overnight under clear skies. So it's going to be a frigid night. And Montreal, you guys are continuing your 18-day streak below freezing with temperatures ranging from -13 to 5 today. Now, let's put these current temperatures into perspective compared to what's normal for early February in these cities. Toronto's normal high for this time of year is -2 degrees. So we're running about 1 degree below normal. Ottawa's normal high is 6 degrees. So today's -5 is actually pretty close to seasonal. Hamilton's normal high sits at -2, making today's -5 about 3 degrees below the average. What makes this remarkable isn't necessarily how cold individual days are, but rather the relentless persistence of it. We haven't seen a day above freezing across the region for more than 16 consecutive days now. That kind of sustained cold is what we haven't experienced since the historic winter of 2014 to 2015. Back then, Toronto went 37 straight days without reaching 0 degrees, from late January through early March 2015. Montreal saw 43 consecutive days below freezing that same winter, and February was absolutely brutal across the province. All right, let's move into the extended forecast and talk about what's coming for the rest of this week. Wednesday, February 4th is looking much quieter across southern Ontario, with mainly sunny skies returning to most areas. Toronto sees sunny conditions with a high of -5 degrees and cloudy periods developing overnight with a low of -14. Ottawa stays cloudy on Wednesday, with a high of -6, and cloudy periods continue overnight with a low of -16. Hamilton enjoys sunny skies on Wednesday, with a high of -5 degrees and cloudy periods tonight, dropping to -12. Windsor gets sunshine as well with a high of 7 degrees and clear skies overnight, bring temperatures down to -14. Thursday, February 5th continues the pattern with mainly sunny skies across Toronto reaching a high of -4 degrees. But here's where it gets interesting. Snow develops Thursday night in Toronto with a low of -9. Ottawa sees sunny conditions Thursday with a high of -8, but cloudy skies move in overnight with a 60% chance of snow. Hamilton gets cloudy skies on Thursday with a high of -6 and snow develops Thursday night with a low of -7. Windsor stays cloudy Thursday with a high of -4, and there's a 60% chance of snow Thursday night. Now, Friday, February 6th, is when we might see a brief interruption to this relentless cold pattern. A fast-moving clipper system is expected to drag a brief warm sector into parts of southwestern Ontario on Friday. This could allow temperatures to briefly rise to or just above the freezing mark in areas like Windsor and Sarnia. Toronto might see a marginal blip above freezing with a forecasted high of -2 degrees, but snow is expected. Hamilton could actually hit 0 degrees on Friday, which would be the first time above freezing in over 2 weeks. However, and this is important, areas north of the Greater Toronto Area will remain below freezing with little to no moderation. And folks, I need to warn you that this brief warm-up is going to be short-lived, very short-lived. Another lobe of the polar vortex is going to pay us a visit this coming weekend with temperatures plunging once again. We're talking about temperatures dropping more than 15 degrees below seasonal normals in some locations across southern Ontario. Wind chill values over the weekend are expected to reach 30 to 40 degrees C across much of the region. Saturday looks particularly brutal with a mix of sun and cloud in Toronto, and a high struggling to reach us 9. Ottawa sees sunny conditions Saturday, but only reaches -13 degrees, with overnight wind chills approaching -30 or colder. At those wind chill values, frostbite can develop on exposed skin in as little as 10 minutes or less. If you need to be outside this weekend, cover all exposed skin, dress in layers, and limit your time outdoors. Now, here's the big question everyone's asking. When does this pattern finally break and give us some sustained relief? And I've got some genuinely good news for you folks because a major pattern change is on the way. By the second week of February, the blocking pattern over Alaska that's been helping maintain this cross-polar flow is expected to collapse. When that happens, it's going to shut down the cross-polar pipeline of Arctic air that's been funneling into eastern Canada. Milder Pacific air is then expected to surge eastward across much of Canada, bringing a significant temperature recovery. Southern Ontario should transition into a much milder and more active weather pattern starting around February 9th through the 14th. We're looking at the second and third weeks of February, delivering a much more sustained break from this Arctic air mass. Now, I want to be clear here. This doesn't mean winter is over, not by any stretch of the imagination. What it does mean is that the coldest chapter of this particular winter season is quickly coming to a close. Temperature models are showing daytime highs potentially climbing back toward or even slightly above the 0-degree mark by mid-February. That would be a welcome relief after what will be close to 3 weeks of consecutive below-freezing temperatures. This current cold snap is definitely going to go down as one of the most impressive we've seen since 2015. It's been unusually prolonged, widespread across the entire southern Ontario region, and incredibly stubborn to dislodge. Let's talk about some of the impacts we're seeing from this extended period of extreme cold across the region. Multiple cities have opened additional warming centers to help vulnerable populations, particularly those experiencing homelessness. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow announced the city has opened its 8th warming center, adding 615 additional spaces during the cold snap. Outreach teams are operating 24 hours a day to help people get indoors and access these warming facilities. The Toronto Transit Commission has reported technical problems with 45 of their older model streetcars due to the extreme cold. GO Transit has experienced minor delays on various train lines due to door closure issues, and in one case, a broken rail. These infrastructure challenges are pretty typical when we see sustained extreme cold like we're experiencing right now. The elderly population is at heightened risk during events like this due to reduced circulation and underlying health conditions. Young children are also vulnerable because their bodies lose heat more quickly, and they may not recognize early warning signs of frostbite. Pet safety is another major concern, with paw pads especially vulnerable due to prolonged contact with snow and ice. Salt-treated surfaces can cause additional irritation to pets' paws. So consider using booties if you're walking your dog. The expanding ice cover on the Great Lakes is actually having both positive and negative effects on our weather. On the positive side, increased ice coverage reduces the ability for lake-effect snow to form in downwind areas. However, we're also losing the water's ability to moderate frigid temperatures before they spill over southern Ontario. Typically, the open water on the Great Lakes helps to warm up cold Arctic air masses as they pass over the surface. With more ice cover, that moderating effect is diminished, allowing the full brunt of the Arctic air to reach us. All right, folks, let's wrap this up with some key takeaways and important safety reminders for the days ahead. If you're in the Picton or Sandbanks Park area, that Snow Squall Warning remains in effect throughout Tuesday. Avoid non-essential travel if possible, and if you must go out, be prepared for rapidly changing conditions and near-zero visibility. For everyone across southern Ontario, we're looking at another brutally cold weekend ahead with dangerous wind chills. Remember that frostbite can develop in 10 minutes or less when wind chills drop below -30°C. Cover all exposed skin. Dress in multiple layers and limit your outdoor activities to essential trips only. Check in on elderly neighbors, family members, and anyone who might be struggling with housing insecurity during this cold snap. The good news is that relief is genuinely on the way, with a major pattern change expected by the second week of February. This is definitely a developing situation, and I'll be here providing daily updates as we track this transition to milder weather. If you found this forecast helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily weather update. Make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any important updates, especially as this pattern begins to shift next week. All of the data in today's forecast comes from Environment Canada, the Weather Network, and official meteorological sources. I'll see you in the next one with more updates on this cold snap and the upcoming pattern change.